behalf of Department of Culture, Tourism and Antiquities, Government of Sindh, I'm privileged to have this opportunity to welcome you all on the day 2 proceedings of very first Makli International Conference. It was great when we gathered yesterday. That was day 1 proceedings, and you all became a part of that conference. We all are happy that for the very first time, when we are talking about Makli. So, in session 1, we have 2 sessions today, and the third session would be musical evening. That would be a mystic and cultural musical evening, which will start at 6 p.m. But let me start the session 1 of day 2. May I request Mr. Ali Gibran Siddiqui to please join us on stage. He is our first speaker. May I request Dr. Yasmin Lari to please come on stage and to join with us. May I request Ms. Fatma Qureshi to please come on stage and join us. May I request Professor Dr. Margaret S. Graves to please come on stage and join us as a speaker. May I request Ms. Omaira Naz to please come on stage and join us. And may I request my friend Mr. Muhammad Shah Bukhari to please come on stage and join us as a speaker. Starting with the name of Almighty Allah, may I request Mr. Mushtaq Ashraf Murtazvi Sahab to please come on the podium and to recite a few verses from the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم صدق الله العظيم.
Our first speaker of the session is Dr. Ali Gibran Siddiqui. Dr. Ali Gibran Siddiqui received his PhD in Islamic and Central Asian History from the Ohio State University in 2016 and is currently employed as an assistant professor of history at the Institute of Business Administration, Karachi. Proficient in 5 languages, I was amazed to see his profile. He knows to write and speak and understand Urdu, English, Persian, Uzbek and Russian. Dr. Siddiqui studies the economic and political activities of Sufi networks in central networks of Central and South Asia. His PhD dissertation is also interesting, and that is titled under the Naqshbandiya after Khaja Ahrar networks of trade in Central and South Asia. Reappraised the role of trans-regional Naqshbandi Sufi networks, revealing their fascinations facilitations of commerce and across large parts of 15th and 16th century Asia. As a part of his book project, he is currently working on the additional chapter exploring the role of Naqshbandi Sufis as merchants and diplomats during Mughal period, and especially Mughal War of 17th century. The topic of his paper is, today he is going to present the paper. That is also an interesting topic and related, of course, to his dissertation, PhD dissertation and its extension, that is Power, Prestige and Piety, Naqshbandi Sufi Networks in Mughal Thatta. May I request Dr. Ali Gibran Siddiqui to please present his research paper.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. First of all, I am not a historian of Sindh. I am a historian who studies Central Asia. But there's something about this land, some certain magic here, which, drew me into its fold and allowed me to, see things which I had not previously seen and perhaps make certain connections with certain structures I had observed during my dissertation research about Naqshbandi Sufism, and specifically in the 17th century, right? So, as one of the largest known necropoli in the world, Makli is home to thousands upon thousands upon thousands of shrines, harkening back to various architectural traditions spanning at least, the last 7 centuries. Some of these shrines still play a very, very central role in the social and the religious lives of the inhabitants of this part of Sindh. One such shrine houses Makhdoom Adam Thattavi and his followers, and it's found right off the national highway. And this national highway, it moves people and goods to and fro from Makli to different parts of Pakistan, right? So as a well-maintained and functioning shrine, it serves its community through its library, through its inn, through its soup kitchen, and even a little bird sanctuary which is located on its premises, right? So given this shrine's location, both as a social space and, and as a node connecting it to the rest of the region, it is perhaps apt that Makhdoom Adam's life be seen as a touchstone for the socio-religious life and the political and economic networks centered in 17th century Thatta. Therefore, it is, we can also say, that we can see the status of Sufism in 17th century Thatta within this broader framework of, the socio-economic sphere, right? So, and not only does the Makhdoom Adam's life reveal more about the state of affairs in Sindh, but rather it sheds light on the role of Naqshbandi Sufis in general in under the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, right? So Makhdoom Adam is often credited as the first Naqshbandi Sufi to create a long-lasting, localized network in the 17th century and spread his teachings in Sindh. He was definitely not the first Naqshbandi Sufi in Sindh. That credit would perhaps go to Makhdoom Bilal Baghbani, who was martyred during the Arghun invasion in around, I think, 1523, 1524, when he stood up against these invaders. That was the first phase of, I guess, the Naqshbandi expansion into Sindh, which was then cut short. It starts again with this one person who is called Makhdoom Adam Thattavi, right? And despite his connections to this larger Naqshbandi network, which, at his time in the 17th century was centered in Sirhind near Delhi, right? And also spread out across South and Central Asia, Makhdoom Adam was and will be a Sindhi Sufi, right? Unlike other Sufi sheikhs from more distant parts of the greater Perso-Islamicate world who settled in Sindh over the span of several centuries, Makhdoom Adam was a native of this land. He was a native of Thatta. And though the Makhdoom was the first Sufi sheikh to establish a Naqshbandi network in this region, his family had been well known for its scholarly contributions over the past several centuries leading up to his time. He was born into a Siddiqui family of Yemeni descent and traced his patrilineal descent back to the first caliph of Islam, Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. One member of this family was a certain Hazrat Abdul Bari, who had migrated to the Indian region of Kathiawar from Yemen in 417 Hijri, which is round about the time when Sultan Mahmud of Ghaznavi was making his incursions into this region, right? And it was here in Kathiawar that Hazrat Abdul Bari's brother, Hazrat Abdul Khaliq, met Sultan Mahmud, who was extremely impressed with his scholarly abilities, and he granted him lands and titles and rewards. Thereafter, Hazrat Abdul Khaliq's son, Hazrat Abdul Hadi, moved to the region of Kutch, and later members of this family migrated to Thatta, and they have been settled here ever since. Hazrat Makhdoom Adam Thattavi's father, Hazrat Abdul Ahad, was one of these descendants from the region of Kutch. Sometime in the 17th century, Makhdoom Adam was born into this well-known and respected Thattavi family, and he gained his early education in Thatta, where he began to be known as a scholar of great repute. So while the exact date of birth of Makhdoom Adam is not found in the hagiographies, in the tazkiras about his life, it is known that he was a contemporary of Khwaja Muhammad Masoom, who lived between 1598 and 1668. Hazrat Masoom was the son of the famous Naqshbandi Sufi Sheikh, Hazrat Imam Rabbani Mujaddid Alfsani, Sheikh Ahmad Sirhindi Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu. As early as Shah Jahan's reign, Khwaja Muhammad Masoom had become the teacher and the spiritual guide of the Mughal prince Aurangzeb, who, like his father Shah Jahan, had shown particular deference to Sufis of the Naqshbandi tariqa. So with the accession of Aurangzeb to the throne, Khwaja Masoom had a significant degree of positive influence over the affairs of the Mughal Empire. Khwaja Masoom helped foster an environment that was increasingly supportive of Islamic scholars like Makhdoom Adam. So as a scholar himself, Makhdoom Adam had heard much about Aurangzeb's favor towards, certain scholars, certain Sufis, and he decides to move to Delhi so he could talk with the emperor himself and decide on either a jagir, a land grant, or a stipend for himself. This happens in the first year of Aurangzeb's reign, and instead of going directly to Delhi, Makhdoom Adam stops in Sirhind, which is the center of the Mujaddidi Naqshbandi network at this time under Khwaja Masoom. After his initial meeting, Khwaja Masoom was so impressed with Makhdoom Adam that he decided not to send him to Delhi, but kept him himself as a tutor for his own children, right? And he was so impressed by his services that he kept him as a tutor and a teacher for his children for the next 7 years. During these 7 years, Makhdoom Adam's family was taken care of by Hazrat Khwaja Masoom, who sent, a monthly stipend to Thatta from Sirhind. But at the end of this 7-year-long period, Makhdoom Adam had impressed Khwaja Masoom so much that Khwaja Masoom decided that Makhdoom Adam is a worthy individual who deserves to be within the Naqshbandi tariqa, right? So this was a form of exclusivity. This is a term which I use in my own research about Central Asian Sufism, where sheikhs or their khulafa would directly control the entry of the best, the most trustworthy people in society into their orders. And through his 7 years of service, Makhdoom Adam Thattavi had proven himself to this great sheikh, right? So after having been given the khirqa and brought into the fold of the Naqshbandi tariqa, he is sent back to Thatta. Now Makhdoom Adam is slightly apprehensive. He is slightly worried, and he is worried that, Sindh is a land of Sufis. There are countless Sufis here, hundreds and thousands of them, right? What good will I do when I get there? And that is when Hazrat Khwaja Masoom reassures him and tells him that your order is different, right? It will find its own space, and you will find yourself excelling above all other people, right? So the question is, looking at this from my own framework, why was Thatta so important for Naqshbandi Sufis, right? And for this, we perhaps have to see the socio-economic dynamics of Thatta in the 17th century. Given its strategic location on the Indus River Delta, Thatta also housed a large community of local merchants. It was a particularly important point connecting the Indian Ocean trade circuit with the larger Silk Road network spanning Eurasia. And while the trade that passed through Thatta was important for Sindh and its inhabitant, it also sustained, through this commercial interaction, a larger economic system connecting Eurasia, East Africa, and South Asia. And along with the now extinct seaport at Lahari Bandar, Thatta as a hub of riverine travel connected a series of roads and caravanserais stretching across Iran, Central Asia, and India to ports like Hormuz, Surat, and Calicut. Goods coming in from the port of Hormuz were often offloaded at the port of Thatta and moved further inland on caravans. In some cases, things were brought in from Central Asia through routes passing eastward through Kandahar and move across the Sangar Pass to Multan and through Quetta onwards to Shikarpur when they'd move further south to Thatta and access the Indian Ocean, right? These latter caravans, they often included sundry goods, like spices, pepper, nutmeg, mace, cinnamon, cloves, and ginger. But they also included things which were produced in Thatta itself, specifically, the fantastic textiles which were made here, a lot of which were, chinzes, calicos, and fine muslin cloth, right? And because of this, there was a very, very, very large merchant community here. While this local economy, boomed across a period spanning several centuries, a slow but steady decline was observable across the period starting in the mid-17th century. This economic downturn was partially ecological, as the Indus River used to transport goods to and from Thatta faced increased silting, which hindered the movements of boats and ships. The Mughals tried to remedy the situations by building 2 other ports, but that was clearly not enough. Additionally, the silting was accompanied by a drop in the prices of silver. So given its location as an important port city and given its important economic dynamics, since the 16th century, Thatta had seen a massive influx of silver in the forms of coins from markets where they were selling their goods. And this is actually coming from the New World, as the Spanish in the 16th century had discovered silver mines in Mexico, and that glut of silver slowly made its way to these large export-based economies like Thatta. And this uncontrolled supply of silver led to a steady fall in silver prices. And because most coins at this time, which were used and exchanged, were made out of silver, this led to a fall in the value of money and an increase in general price levels, right? Thatta naturally too suffered from this inflation, as did other parts of South Asia and China at this time. So why are these economic details, right, these very boring details, so important for a study on the life of an influential Sufi sheikh, right? By the 17th century, the Naqshbandi tariqa that Khwaja Adam was a part of was already known as, quote unquote, a tariqa of the merchants, or tariqa-e-bazar, right, in Central Asian sources as well. Describing his first meeting with his teacher, the famous Central Asian Naqshbandi Sheikh, Khwaja Ubaidullah Ehrar, had noted the strong association between the tariqa and commerce when he characterized the Naqshbandi silsila in this way, calling it the tariqa of the people, of the markets, and of merchants. Commerce was highly encouraged in the Sufi, as it was seen as a form of lawful income, right? It therefore supported the commercial ventures of affiliated merchants through its network, right? In addition to exclusively allowing only the most trustworthy of merchants into the tariqa, sheikhs also helped their merchant murids by ensuring that their caravans and ships were protected. They used their vast networks of khulafa and khanaqahs to monitor the movement and use their influence over rulers to grant them safe passage through foreign lands. Additionally, in Makhdoom Adam and Khwaja Masoom's own lifetime, the Joebari Naqshbandi network, which was a different Sufi network centered out of the city of Bukhara, was also engaged in similar trade across Eurasia, where Joebari merchants who were famed for their honesty found, markets as far away as Russia. So there was a particular appeal of the Naqshbandi tariqa amongst merchants, as and this was like a mutual relationship, right? As merchants needed this protection from the tariqah, right? But the tariqah only let in the most trustworthy people, thus ensuring the honesty and the good reputation of their merchants, right? And this brings us to, I guess, the most interesting part of this paper, at least for me, which is that there is a certain aspect of Naqshbandi Sufism which was seen in Sindh in the 17th century at this time, but is a practice which was also commonly followed in Central Asia. Now, the word used for this generally in scholarship is himayat, right? And now, when we use the word himayat, it means to grant support, to help someone, right? In this very conservative definition, himayat literally means protection, but protection which usually takes an economic form, right? In Central Asia, we see Sufi sheikhs forcing rulers to repeal taxes on trade, and they consider that to be a part of their himayat, right? In the case of Makhdoom-e-Adam, Hazrat Makhdoom-e-Adam Thattavi, we don't really see, any evidence of his activism unless against unjust taxes imposed on merchants. What we do find isn't really in hagiographies, but more so in karamat narratives, right? Narratives of his miraculous powers, of his, of his miraculous interventions in this world. And in one such case, when the governor of Thatta is being excessively cruel and he has raised the price of grain, which is affecting the lives of the ordinary people of Thatta, Hazrat Makhdoom Adam Thattavi curses the rulers, so they are immediately taken ill, right? They are very sick, and until they reverse, the price increase on grain, they are not really, forgiven by the Khwaja. So while this, comes across as an account of a miraculous event, there is also a very certain strong social, political, and economic element to this account, right? It shows how he demonstrated his protection, right? His agency in realms which, went beyond the religious, right? Which were very social, very economic, and can be seen as a form of activism where he is protecting the people of his city and he's protecting the people around him because of the strong affiliation he has to this land and because of the certain prestige awarded to him by the people here who see him as their leader, right? Both spiritual and, in this case, social and economic. And this is also interesting because this is also happening in the 17th century where we see something, on a slightly higher level in what is now Western China in the Tarim Basin, where we have Naqshbandi Sufis forming their own states to take over when they see, that foreign rulers have been unjustly cruel towards the local populations they represent. So as a Central Asian historian, the life and the career and, the miracles associated with the Makhdoom are like very, very, very interesting and very important for my research. Thank you.
Next scholar is Dr. Yasmin Lari, and we all are aware of her contribution and her name and her fame. Dr. Yasmin Lari is the first women architect of Pakistan. After initial schooling at Queen's Mary's, Adbistane-Sufia, and Kinnard College, Lahore, Pakistan, she graduated from Oxford School of Architecture, which is now called Oxford Brookes University in United Kingdom, in 1963, and was elected member of Royal Institute of British Architects, RIBA, R-I-B-A, in 1969. As President of Institute of Architects Pakistan, IAP, and first chairperson of Pakistan Council of Architects and Town Planners, Lari was instrumental in bringing out recognition for the professions of architecture and town planning through PCATP Ordinance 1983. In 2006, in recognition of her services to the architectural profession and heritage conservation, she was awarded Sitara-e-Imtiaz, one of these civil awards by the government of Pakistan. She established Lari Associates, Architects, Urban Designers in 1964 and took on the challenges as the architect dealing with the issues in an industry less developed country, especially the country like Pakistan. From the mud buildings, low-income housing and improvements in the spontaneous settlements to the state-of-the-art buildings. She is author and co-author of several books, including a publication on the historic Governor House, Lahore. May I request her to please present her paper on the topic Conservation of 16th Century Monuments at Makli World Heritage. Dr. Yasmin Lari.
I'm honored to be invited to the first Makli International Conference, and I congratulate the Minister, Mr. Syed Sardar Ali Shah, and Director General, Mr. Manzoor Nasero, for this significant initiative and for gathering a galaxy of renowned scholars for presenting diverse facets of this amazing necropolis, which I believe has no parallel in the world. On this first occasion of this first international conference, we will do well to remember giants such as Mir Ali Sher Kane and Tahir Muhammad Nisyani, Pir Hisamuddin Rashdi and Anna Marie Shimel, Henry Cousins, and other scholars who did so much to immortalize Makli. If it wasn't for them, we would probably not know what Makli is all about. We know that it has this amazing spiritual quality, and anybody who comes here cannot go back unimpressed with that. And so it is for me a great privilege to present to this august gathering the work that has been carried out by us on various monuments at Makli, and especially the 16th century monuments, the tombs of Mirza Jan Baba and Sultan Ibrahim, and the body of work over the last 30 years. Okay, so a little bit about Heritage Foundation of Pakistan, of which I am the chief executive. It's a not-for-profit social and cultural entrepreneur organization established in 1980 for safeguarding Pakistan's cultural heritage. And since 2005, it provides humanitarian assistance by linking heritage with post-disaster development. And you can see that we do both heritage management and humanitarian assistance, and incorporating a spirit of volunteerism and commitment to causes. That is something that we take great pride in. So engagement with Makli has been since 1987, so it's 30 years now. When I was doing my presentation, it occurred to me that that's how it is. Whether it's mapping, surveying, cataloging, measuring, photographing, writing or publishing, or setting up Kashi Atelier, and engaging the community with support from UNESCO, it's been a journey of enormous pleasure and dedication that has led us to develop an understanding and sensitivity, enabling us to undertake the conservation of some of the most important monuments located at Makli World Heritage. As we know, even touching monuments of such significance is a source of pride, and Heritage Foundation has been privileged to provide assistance, safeguarding, and conservation treatment to 5 major monuments at Makli over the last 5 years. First of all, the Makli World Heritage maps. When we started, we could not find any maps. And so it was very important for us to develop them, because without that, it was not possible to understand how everything was. So then we were able to also define the core and buffer zones and the tangible and intangible heritage. This is a unique site. There are very few in the world, I would say, without fear of somebody saying it's not true, that where tangible and intangible are so closely interlinked, and they're so important for each other. And to develop an understanding of both is equally valuable. And so I was very happy to hear the earlier speaker talking about the Naqshbandi Silsila and how it has affected the whole region of Thatta and so on. And then, of course, there's the documentation part, which is surveys and cataloging, measuring and photographing. Then there are some publications by Suhail Zahid Lari, the historian, and myself. There's emergency assistance that we have provided to various heritage sites, assets that I will show very quickly. And then, of course, there's the conservation of the 16th century monuments of Sultan Ibrahim and Mirza Jan Baba. And then I would also like to touch a little bit on the glaze tile treatment that we've set up with help from UNESCO. And then the last will be the community engagement. So it's a little bit of a tight schedule, I think, but we will try to do it as fast as I can go through it. Okay, so first, number one, mapping World Heritage Site. So we have the map showing core zone and buffer zones. We have a map showing inventory of tangible heritage and the dynasties that you actually have in your folder. And then there's a map that shows inventory of shrines and intangible heritage that exists around it. The shrines and the monuments are both very much interlinked, and they have to be seen together. And the last, of course, is the map showing village clusters that are there, which are mostly composed of people who are mendicants, who actually earn their living by begging. And this is something that we need all to be looking at. So, where are we? So this is the map. You can see, I hope, where the core zone and the buffer zones are. You will also be able to, you can see, I mean, I'm sure that you know all this, that is the largest Muslim necropolis in the world, which is spread over 12 kilometers. It represents 400 years of different ruling dynasties in Sindh, some local and also some who came from abroad, from Central Asia mostly. And then, of course, it incorporates lofty tombs, and you must have all gone and seen what an amazing collection of heritage sites there are. And of course, in 1981, it was put on the World Heritage List. And then 2011, the whole, because of the constitutional amendment, all these sites were transferred to provinces, and that's how Sindh got Makli and, of course, Mohenjo-daro, and many other sites. So now we have also prepared an inventory of tangible heritage, and this, again, you've seen in your map that has been provided to you by the department, and you can see how there are different rules that are there, and we've done a kind of a tallying up as to how many there are. So Samma period, which is 14th to 16th century, there were 19. There's Arghun rule, early to mid 16th century, there are 5. Tarkhan rule, mid to late 16th century, 14. And Mughal rule, of course, 17th to 18th century, has about 37. And there's a whole tallying up of various monuments and graves and so on. Then the last map that I have is, I'm sorry, this is the second last, inventory of shrines. And so we have a whole list of shrines. There's something like 20 shrines that are in the vicinity of the site, all around it. And again, as I said, they play a very important role in the whole making up of Makli. And then this is the last map that I have, which shows the mendicant communities or the beggar communities that are dotted below the ridge, and they are in floodplains, so they are flooded and they are in a terrible state. And considering that we are talking of World Heritage Sites, I think it becomes more and more important that the communities that live around these sites must also get the benefit, not only the heritage sites, but they must too. So the living as well as the ones who are gone should have kind of equal treatment. And this is what we are trying to do at Heritage Foundation. So now I come to the second part, which is photography, physical survey, and documentation. We prepared the topographical survey of Samma cluster in 1987. The first pictorial catalog was prepared in 2011 with the help of Prince Claus Fund of the Netherlands. The tomb of Jam Nizamuddin documentation was done in 2012 with the help of UNESCO. Inventory of Makli's heritage assets were prepared in 2013. The first detailed map of Makli was prepared in 2014. Electronic data bank for Sindh heritage, including Makli, was prepared in 2014 with the German government and also Aachen University. And then we did a survey of Kashi in Sindh, including Makli, in 2015 with the help of UNESCO. And there's just some examples of the kind of work it required, the topographical map, the cataloging the site below, and then how the work was done basically in the field. Just trying to bring to life some of the things that were done here. So the books and publications, I'll go very quickly. The Jewel of Sindh, Samma Tombs on Makli Hill, was published in 1997. First pictorial catalog was prepared in 2012, I think. Tomb of Jam Nizamuddin was prepared in 2012, National Register of Historic Places, which actually contains all the sites. I mean, every one of them has been catalogued, and we've done their citing and everything. This is the National Register, and this was prepared in 2013. Revival of Ancient Kashi in Sindh, which is an e-book, was done in 2015. And then Makli Under the Samma is a book in 2016, and so on. So there are several publications. I'll just very quickly again show you what they are.